Tonight, guys, welcome to Diabetes Chat. We welcome Jazz and Asra from Decoded. Jazz is the founder and director of the Diabesties Foundation, a global movement and foundation set up to make people with type 1 diabetes heard, supported, and celebrated. Jazz was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at the age of 13, I believe. And Asra, who also joins us tonight, works for the Diabesties Foundation as head of education and also is the leader on the Decoded website. Asra also lives with type 1 diabetes, and tonight we're joined by Jazz, Asra, and we'll be talking a little bit about the T1 journey, Diabesties Decoded, and also we're talking about education, peer support, advocacy, stigma, mental health, language matters, and probably a little bit more. So, guys, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very
Tom.
happy to be up.
Oh, bless you. Thank you so much for being here, guys. So let's just kick off. And Jazz, obviously, you've been on Diabetes Chat a few times, and I want to kick off maybe with Asra to start. And this section is about T1 journey and connection. So probably about 10, 15 minutes, and then we'll then go on to the main chat tonight. So Asra, would you maybe share with the community listening in tonight or listening back on the podcast your journey, briefly, when you were diagnosed, how old were you? What sort of symptoms did you have? Any stories to share?
I'm very much in Mark's league. That was 1987, and I was, well, I don't want to say my age because then you can just do the maths. But yeah, 1987, and I was finishing my teen years. I'll put it that way. I was on the other side of 16, and it was in Saudi Arabia. That's where I grew up. And my ethnicity is Indian. So I've got the genes that are a mixture, hodgepodge of every possible part of every 3 continents, I guess, because my grandma was from European side. So that doesn't, I have no clue what my genetic backlog is, but definitely diagnosed, and I was the first in the family. And I remember that gigantic testing glucometer, which, people say, well, you just take your glucometer in your bag. And in those days, nobody took their glucometer anywhere. You tested twice a day, as you were told. And the rest of the time, God only knows what was going on. But my doctor was a little bit more advanced. So he said, use a urine strip if you don't feel well. So that was the criteria. You use a urine strip when you're not well, and you test twice a day, which I have to say, I don't think I actually quite did twice a day, every day.
And were you meant to do at set times back in them times, or do at 8 a.m.? Sort of.
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
Everything was fixed. The meals were fixed. The amounts were fixed. Everything was. You can't eat more. You can't eat that, because we had those. I started at NPH and Actrapid, I think, or Humulin R. And then in 2000 or 1998 moved on to Humalog. Humalog was good. Humalog was a big change. I also got married 2 years after I was diagnosed and had a baby the same year. So, and that was in England. So I suddenly became the Saudi who was transplanted to England, to London. And St. Thomas Hospital was my place to go to have my elder son.
Wow.
And
what was the where you were originally from? What was the diabetes care like then in 1987? Was there much awareness or not?
Awareness, I'd say, would be zero, because even my own parents, who are both doctors, when I called them up and I said, my blood sugar is 234, it's fasting, and the lab guy is saying, he's asking me if I'm diabetic, and my mom is like, are you crazy? The reagent must be expired. No. And she's an MRCOG, trained at Guy's Hospital, so she had the background. It's just the acceptance. It just wasn't there.
Wow.
And I would say that thing continued for years. People would say she has a little sugar. What does a little sugar mean? I still don't understand to this day. I have no clue what that means.
No idea.
But apparently I had a little sugar, whatever that was. The care was very good because I happened to be in the military hospital in Saudi. And we had the best of USA. Everything good came from USA as far as Saudi Arabia was concerned. And at that time, the military hospital was managed by a US company. which was connected to the military.
Mm-hmm.
And we had everything. I would say whatever was available in the country, I had the ultimate, topmost, most latest.
Yeah.
But now looking back, you kind of say like, oh my God, the latest of then is absolute. It was actually in the museum in Lisbon when we were there.
Yes.
I was like, okay, yeah, it's amazing. I'm just so that's what put me with research and things. I've got to know what's coming up. Otherwise,
Yes.
I found out about Libre accidentally because my own endocrinologist was on a holiday, and the endo who came in as a locum.
Yep.
He said, "Why aren't you using a CGM, FGM?" And I thought, "Oh, what the hell is that?"
Yeah.
And he actually explained it to me. And
Mm.
if he wasn't there that day, and if I did not have an appointment on that, my own endo would never have even thought of that inertia was there. He would never have thought of telling me to use a CGM, which
Absolutely.
is sad. That's unfortunately the reality of what a lot of us go through.
Absolutely.
You're so set in your comfort zone that nobody pushes you to try something different.
What can we do to improve that? Let's bring Jazz into that conversation. What can we do to so people know about all this? Because similarly, 2.5 years ago, I was when I got my Libra. While I was there, they said, "Oh, would you like to go on a smart pen?" I was like, "What, a smart pen? Is it free? Can I go on it?" I was like, "Yeah." And it's the first time I ever heard about it. And you know what I mean? Like, what can we do to ensure that people know about technology and choices and access across all over the world here, guys?
I honestly think that what we all of you are doing, even with like diabetes chat and just the amount of community support networks that are coming up across the world, that is the way forward.
Yeah.
Right? Because we can't dictate what doctors and HCPs may say or not say. I mean, I had a very similar journey as well because my doctor as well never told me about the pump. My mom went to the US and she just happened to see a billboard that's talked about Omnipod. So I think it's also because doctors, a lot of them are a little afraid to recommend something that they don't fully understand, maybe. And maybe tech does not reach many countries the way it reaches the UK and the US. So we need to be updated through different means. And I think nowadays with social media and stuff like that, it's becoming so much better. And with that's even the effort with Decoded, right? To get information out there when others won't tell it to you. So I don't think we need to wait for doctors or the medical fraternity to come and give us an update. The community, the people with lived experience are giving it themselves. And I think that's the way forward.
Absolutely, isn't it? What I just say in sort of defense to this is, or not, I don't want to be controversial now, but I guess, are we a minority, the people on social media? I do worry about the people that aren't on social media and they don't know about all this. You know what I mean? It's sad, isn't it, if they don't know about certain things?
It's
I mean, I
also a
think
fear. Yeah, Jazz,
it's
go
a
ahead. Sorry.
multi-pronged it's a multi-pronged thing, right? Of course, social media is one way to get to a certain group of audience. I mean, here we're talking about tech, which is again tech is only going to be affordable to people who actually are on social media, to be very honest. When you look at landscapes of very lower income and middle income countries, we are even talking about just insulin. So I think
Yeah.
it's also about understanding the audiences and seeing what to cater to whom. And depending on, like, we have to go ground up when we talk about type 1 diabetes care, especially in developing countries. So I think tech is still a privilege in so many parts of the world. So I think the idea starts from, of course, just talking about basic care first, and that healthcare professionals having to give, and that is something that we want to fight for. We want to advocate for. We want to really go above and beyond for. Tech for so many parts of the world is just a cherry on the cake, where I totally believe it should be basic standard of care. But I
Sure.
think the journey is long. It's slow, it's long, but I think with so much more community voice, it is becoming more of a reality.
Absolutely.
I
Anything?
think we can go by our country as well, Tom. For me, I see both sides. I see Saudi Arabia, where we weren't even a country 89 years ago. We are only 94 years old.
Yeah.
And we now CGMs, whether it's Dexcom or Libre 2, is provided by the government. But it didn't just happen overnight. There
No.
was a big push, a very, very big push to do that. And that's what I see. I said, if we could be a nobody and a nothing country, and yes, we were lucky with the finances and the population is not that huge. But yeah, it's done. There is actually a law in the Ministry of Health that says you have to provide a Libre minimum. That's a minimum to a type 1, and all type 2s have to get test strips and glucometers. I mean, that's the advocacy that, you were, okay, they did it. Let's push as far as we can, as much as we can. I know India's population is huge. So obviously other countries, Africa, everybody has their own challenges.
Yeah.
But it's done, it's kind of there in front of you. And where the funds come from is probably more of a question than how to do it, but it's doable. It's not impossible.
Everything is doable, isn't it? Nothing shouldn't be impossible. Brilliant start to the chat, guys. I'm gonna a few sort of quick fire questions, and then we're gonna then go on to our main chat tonight. So just sort of quick fire questions. What tech do you currently use? Jazz first.
So I currently am on a DIY loop. So I use the Dexcom G6 with the Omnipod Dash.
Yeah.
And hacked it in, and I'm now DIY looping.
Brilliant. What about you, Asra?
I use a Medtronic 780G at certain times, so I have it here with me. But currently, I'm using Trio loop with Omnipod Dash and a Dexcom G6. But I have a Dexcom G7 standby and a OnePlus standby in case something happens to the G6.
Absolutely, the full kit, just in case. What's your go-to hypo treatment? Start with you, Asra.
I love gummy bears. And there's an issue with us because being from a Muslim background, I can't take gelatin in my gummy bear. So I literally have to source that very, very carefully, reading signs. And any vegan gummy bears I can find in any part of the world, I'll be packing away with me. Yeah, gummy bears are my favorite go-to.
Brilliant. Jazz, I'll remember that next time.
I am still a juice girl. I think for me, it's whatever is easiest to get to.
Yeah.
So it's just a juice box for me.
Yeah.
And I've these days I've been trying just glucose powder with a little bit of water.
Yeah.
And I've actually been enjoying that quite a lot.
Interesting. What's worse for you guys? Feeling hypo or hyper? It's probably a silly question, but what would you say is worse?
I'll go first because I was in Miami 2 days ago, and then Saudi one day, and now in Delhi. And what's ended up happening is that my trio is struggling to figure out what the hell is she up to now. So I was 22% in hypo yesterday, and today it's a lot less, but that doesn't scare me. But a hyper of even 15, 20 minutes, and I'll be I will not be a happy person. And there's other people I know who are very comfortable being in the above 170, 180, and they know it'll come back down. I unfortunately lose my mind when that starts happening. So I tend to endanger myself on the hypo side more, which I know I need to work on.
Yeah.
Asra is a perfectionist, and we my greatest complaint about her is that she gets so upset if her sugar is even slightly high. And the normal people like us, we're like, no, we don't like hypo. So, but for us, it's the other way around.
Yeah. I think for me, I totally get it, guys. I think for me is I feel I can fix a hypo much quicker than I can fix a hyper. And the sort of, if you're high for a prolonged period of time, it can make me feel a bit more anxious. And now we've got tech quite readily to hand all the time. You're seeing it all the time, whereas before, a couple of years ago, when I was checking my levels of glucose machines and that, you know what I mean, you're not checking as frequent. So sometimes it's just trusting the system to go, it will sort itself out, but it's quite hard in the moment when you see yourself quite high, isn't it? Last two questions for this section is, what does mental health mean to you, and what do you do to improve your mental health? Start with you, Jazz.
Wow, mental health to me is just about being safe in my space. And that safety could mean being happy, not being too happy, being comfortable, walking around. And for me, it's just that safety I equated a lot to just feeling peaceful. And I try to do things and surround myself with people and do things that make me feel safe. So that is what mental health means to me.
Love that. What about you, Asra?
For me, Tom, unfortunately, my daughter, I'm a parent of a T1D, so my
Mm.
mental health totally revolves around how well she's able to cope.
Yeah,
So if she's doing well, I'm doing well. And if I see her struggle, and I follow her numbers, so obviously I see her struggle on days. So
yeah.
that doesn't help. But from a parent's point of view, I think it's a generation up as well from Jazz. So that kind of makes me, I've been through it. I've done it. 37 years, okay, whatever. I've seen fits, I've seen low
Yeah.
sugars, high sugars. I'll survive. I know I will. But now my entire thinking revolves
Mm.
around how my daughter is doing, and we don't live in the same country, so that doesn't help either.
Yeah, it brings other challenges, I
Yeah,
bet. Yeah, we've had like Mary who's listening in. Her son has type 1 as well. So as a parent
yeah,
living and having a child who's living with type 1 as well as yourself, it must be challenging because you're thinking utmost about their health, but also I guess you have to look after yourself as well, isn't it? So yeah, it's really challenging. Okay, so next section we're going to talk about Diabesties Foundation, but to start, I wanted to ask, how do you know each other? Where did you connect? How long have you known each other? And you're probably going to hate me for this. Is what one quality would you say the other person has? I know you both have hundreds of qualities. You are amazing people. But is there one quality you'd like to share about the other person?
I think I'll take that first. And I think Asra and me actually met virtually. I don't how many years ago was it, Asra? I feel like
it,
I know her forever, but
at least four
uh,
or five, at
yeah,
least
I
with
know.
yeah,
Yes, it was way earlier on when we just started Diabesties, maybe a year, 2 years in,
Yeah.
and randomly there was like some virtual connection that was made, some email was sent, and I remember we had a Zoom call, and that Zoom call was like, I'm a very, I sort of everything I do at Diabesties or everything I do in my job is very, very. It's taken from my gut, so I use my gut instinct a lot, right?
Yeah.
Whenever we are doing a project or whenever we're meeting somebody new or we're getting somebody new on the team, it's always my gut that tells me.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to Astra, and my gut is like saying, yes, 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 yes. Like, oh my God, what a gem this person is. What an amazing person we've found. And it just so happened that we were like, you know what, would you like to sort of join in the mission and hop onto the car and, do this, what we're doing? And she was like, absolutely. And it's been since that long that we've been working together at Diabesties. Of course, she's our head of education, and she does a lot of our workshops, our projects, everything.
Mm.
And I think, like the one quality Asra is a fireball. Like
Fireball.
she is, yeah, she's absolutely like fire, and I mean it in the best way possible. Extremely passionate, extremely loyal, and extremely like vocal about what is right.
Mm.
And I really, really admire that about her. And the best quality is also that, like this morning, I was struggling with an avocado toast and I was not able to bolus correctly for it. And whenever I can't bolus for something, my first person to ask is Asra, because she will tell me exactly how to bolus, what are the carbs, what are the alternatives. So she's my go-to like diabetes person as well.
Wow. So she is your fireball bolus calculator. There you go, Azra.
Exactly. Exactly. That's literally what she is.
Love it. Oh, that's so nice, Jazz.
I think for me, yeah, Jazz and I did meet virtually completely. And
Yeah.
it was during that, it was her YouTube videos. I used to brush my teeth watching her videos in the morning. And, and I thought, God, I wish I could have said all this because she's saying exactly what I go through.
Yeah.
And I started commenting on some of her stuff. And we ended up on that Zoom call, and I thought, she's a genuine person. That's it. That is what clicked with me. I said, she is not doing something just for other reasons, for monetary reasons,
No.
or for fame, or that. I said, she's actually doing it because she genuinely cares.
Yeah.
And yeah, just we clicked, and it happened. And I'm a strong godly person, okay, at the end of the day. So where I said actually resigned from my job a few months before, and I was asked to come back, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I should. If I get into that again, I'll get drawn into it completely. So when this came up, I had a reason to say no to going back into teaching. I teach SEN.
Yeah.
So I was like, and I could put all of that energy into Diabesties and whatever stupid brainwave or not so stupid brainwave Jazz comes up with. And I'm pretty sure it is in the middle of a flight, because she comes back from these trips with, I have an idea. And I'm, oh, okay,
Love
something's
it.
coming. But I love
That's
that. I
true.
love that spontaneity. I love that, there's growth.
Yeah.
Even at me being on the other side of 50, I can still feel I'm growing. And it's from this young chip of a girl who, technically speaking, is my daughter's age. So
Yeah.
that I just love her genuineness. Definitely.
Oh,
Oh.
guys, such nice comments. I bet when you first actually met each other, do you ever see that meme on social media of then two young kids running? They see each other down the upper end of the road. I bet when you saw each other for the first time, it was like that. I bet magical.
It totally was. In fact, Asra had come to Ahmedabad, and we met for the first time there. And then subsequently, we've been meeting now all over the world. So it's been amazing.
Oh.
Yeah, that was. I have trust issues, so I actually went there, stayed at her house. So you can
Yes.
imagine how much I studied her for 24 hours just to know I'm putting my life on hold and just barging into full steam ahead with this young girl. I better know what I'm getting into.
Well, at least you
Yeah.
know what type of toothpaste she had following her YouTube
Oh, yep. Oh,
film.
yep.
So you've done your homework. All right, guys. I hope that for everyone listening in, you find it really interesting so far. Now we're going to talk about the Diabesties Foundation, which is quite fitting after the conversation we just had. So for either of you, really, so for the diabetes chat community listening in, or for people who've not heard about the Diabesties Foundation, can you explain what it is, how it began, and the things that the foundation does to support the community?
Yeah, so I think I've talked about Diabesties a lot, and I think if you go to my Twitter, it's all about Diabesties as well. So it was basically created in 2018, and it's a very simple mission and vision that we follow, which is to change the way that people look at type 1 diabetes in our country and also change the way people live with it. And we do this under three big banners
Mm-hmm.
because I think India faces very unique challenges that are also very complex and very layered. We have an overburdened public healthcare system. We have very disturbing societal stigmas. We have very low literacy and medical literacy.
Yeah.
And we have issues with just unilateral access to care. So, to navigate this sort of roller coaster of issues, we work under three big banners, which are advocacy and access, where we do access projects where we support children with free insulin, free test strips. We try to work with policy. We do government NGO partnerships and things like that. We also do a project for women's health because we find that women just generally don't advocate for their health, and then add on type 1 diabetes, and it becomes even worse.
Yeah.
Our second pillar is learning and education, which is one of Asra's biggest, like, the flag that she flags around, because it is about getting quality diabetes health education in. Because I think all of us on this chat will agree that it's not just about insulin, it's about also knowing how to live life with type 1 diabetes. It's about carb counting, it's about injection technique, it's about titration, it's about tech, it's about constantly learning and growing.
Yeah.
So our flagship projects from Diabesties actually are all about learning and education. And we've in fact published data that suggests that people who have taken our sessions, they've had quality of like clinical improvements post those sessions as well.
Brilliant.
So it really shows that
Impactful.
your quality of life can also improve along with your clinical parameters if you just are more aware.
Hmm.
And then the third pillar is what everything in life is based on. It's about community and peer support. I think one of the biggest reasons I started Diabesties was because after I was diagnosed in 2009, I did not know a single other person with type 1 till I started Diabesties.
Hmm.
Because we didn't have this kind of community in India, the way that you guys had JDRF in the UK, or there was Beyond Type 1 in the US. We didn't have any of that.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest, it was actually a little bit of a selfish reason to just start and meet other people. And because I genuinely think that it's beautiful when you find people who can see what is invisible to most.
Yeah.
And peer support just does so much to make you more confident about this life. So yeah, that's what we do at Diabesties. We're a team of about 50 individuals, all who live with type 1 or who are caregivers. We have a physical center in Ahmedabad, which is our home base. We have
Hmm.
32 chapters all over India, and the effort is just to make people's lives better and improve care for type 1 diabetes.
Absolutely outstanding, isn't it? And you know what I mean? It's making that huge difference to real people and their lives. So it's tremendous. I applaud. We applaud it. It's just amazing. Azra, was there anything you wanted to add on to that, or to talk a little bit about the
Um,
education sessions?
yeah, for me, the workshops are, I feel like, okay, I'm giving the information, but it's very difficult to be going through an hour of talking about any topic, but you don't know exactly how much of it's been absorbed by the other side
Yeah.
who are listening on. I do it all online because obviously I'm in Saudi and our audience is mostly from India. And I started to notice that those sessions, if we could translate them into those back to basic sessions, that absolutely gets it 100% in whatever was introduced. We have the opportunity to go back and go over and see how much of it was absorbed, how
Hmm.
much could have been assimilated, and then slowly, sort of every session, we can improve. And what Diabesties is doing is offering these sessions free of cost,
Yeah.
and there is no limit on the number they can book. So I've had people now over the last 4 years, and especially in the last 2 years, who've booked a session every month just to chat.
Hmm.
I mean, she said these young ladies and young boys, they come in and they say, well, everything is going fine, but I just wanted to talk.
Hmm.
And that's the peer support. And it doesn't matter that I might have the SEN background or anything. It's not that. It is just to be able to talk to somebody who's lived the condition with you
Yeah. Yeah.
and probably gone through similar stuff, especially those of me like Mark, me, Mary, who've had diabetes for a while, and we are kind of navigated the other side, Carol as well, even though it's type 2, but still, we've done it all. I mean,
Yeah.
when they say, I can say, yeah, I know, and this is how it felt, which is a lot of T1Ds, including myself. We missed out when we go to our clinical appointments. We know they did not feel what we felt.
Absolutely.
And that's, I think, the biggest part of the work we do, right? Like our
Mhm.
anchor, I always say, is the lived experience bit.
Mm.
And when you have educators, or when you have people who have this lived experience like you do, it breaks so many barriers. And what Asra is talking about, our flagship project, which is B2B, back to basics, like we do over 85 sessions a month,
Yeah.
right? And we literally have data that tracks it all. Like Asra and some of our other senior educators, they have seen women like through pregnancies, like every single 2 week check-ins and stuff like that. And to have that kind of support, like none of us had that when we were growing up, right? When
No.
you have little kids coming. And I think what for us, I've always told my team every single time we have a meeting that it's about delivering impact, right? Like we
Hmm.
have to deliver measurable impact. And this impact we see through the responses we get, the messages we get. Just like after an event, somebody comes and says, oh my god, I felt less alone because of that. Or
Hmm.
after a B2B session, somebody comes and says, oh my god, my A1C is down by whatever 1.2%. Or
Yeah.
somebody comes and says, oh my god, I learned something new today now.
Yeah.
And that is like measurable impact that is actually making a difference. So yeah, that's the work we do, and it's just there's a lot more coming up because the problems are not getting any lesser.
No,
So there are more things, more projects, more random ideas that are coming up, but it's everything is just a humble effort to make it better.
it's absolutely beautiful. Can I ask, is it available for everyone in the world, or is it just India at this present time?
The B2B, all our stuff is available for everyone. It's all open source. It's all free. We've actually scheduled sessions with over 13 countries. So we've
Brilliant.
had actually people from the UK, from Africa who have scheduled sessions in the past. It's very easy to schedule. All our educators are certified diabetes educators, and they're also people living with type 1 diabetes. So please feel free to come talk to us. Um, Even if you just want to chat, if you don't want to even like ask anything, just come have a good time with us. All our resources are available online, which are all free to use as well.
That's incredible. And like you said, you've got a full team of people who are lived experience. You've got healthcare professionals, you've got caregivers, you've got psychologists, you've got
Yes.
everyone who's part of that sort of MDT team, I guess. You know what I mean? It's you've got that whole,
Yeah.
but above all, they've got that lived experience, that understanding, the empathy. You know what I mean? So yeah, vital.
Yeah.
And I honestly applaud you guys again for the tremendous network that you're supporting people. I saw on your website a reach of 54,000, education over 2,500, and then you've got community engagement events over 500. It's just tremendous. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? No one should be alone. No one, you should have relevant people to talk to, and I love it, and it's very impactful from what you're saying. Carol, let's bring you in because do you want to ask a question, or did you have a comment you wanted to highlight?
It's a comment, really. I just wanted to convey to Jazz and Asra, they probably do this anyway, and it's the feedback for the condensed information giving. You probably have lots of ways of getting feedback from all your students, and that really helps for things to sink in, doesn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. We have actually feedback loops after every session, and what a lot of our educators do, along with the people who come and schedule, is that they ask for follow up sessions. So certain times there'll be a participant who wants a follow up because maybe they think that they haven't understood enough, but a lot of times the educator initiates the follow up. But the feedback loop is given post every single session, and I think what you said is so right because it's important for us to know what has happened, what they've understood, what they've not understood. And this is the most prevalent with our Mishti kids, who are our kids who come from below poverty line, the kids that we support with free insulin and free test strips. With them, it's a weekly follow up. It's a
Yeah.
WhatsApp follow up. They, in fact, like with Asra, they send pictures of their meals to her because it's so important to have that kind of a constant communication. Asra, would you like to share about the Mishti kids?
Yeah, especially when it comes to the Mishti kids, I can't talk about eat healthy, do this because they're not going to be able to choose. They eat what's in the house. They eat what can be provided on that day, which might not even be a complete meal for the entire family. Minimum, there's 5 to 6, 7 people sitting at that floor to eat. So I can't tell them you've got to have a salad before this. I can't. So we really need to adapt to their needs. And I don't know, the India is so huge. The food everywhere around India is very different. So when they tell me a name, I'm like, oh goodness me, what is that? So I will literally tell them, I need your exercise to be photographed or videoed. Send it to me. I don't care how much my space, the memory in my phone, I'll manage that. And send me a picture of your food at least 2 to 3 times a week. So I know where we can adjust either your doses, or maybe we can have an alternative cost of those fast sort of what we call junk food, chip, fried, whatever grain you're having is way cheaper than expecting them to have a salad. So we have to have that. Without that, and I, just to be on the same level, I record a lot of videos and send it back to them as well. And
Yeah.
it's not that I am the superior teacher who's telling you what to do. I hate that. I hated it when it was done to me. So I'm more like, oh, look, I'm eating this today. How about you? What are you having? So I don't say, send me your picture, otherwise you're going to get points deducted. I'll do a reward system, and I'll just say, I'm going to give you 20 points till the end of the month every time you send me a picture, and let's see how many we can collect. And we actually, Jazz created this tiny shop at the center in Ahmedabad where they could redeem their points for whatever they might need. One of them I know asked for a pair of socks, and one of the gentleman, the senior gentleman who works at Diabesties Center, he said he wants socks. I said, yes, buy them. I'll figure it out. I'll tell him that's what his points earned him. I said, just get them, because I feel if there is no material, tangible reward,
Yeah.
the motivation is very hard to keep up. Not with these children. That's
And
important.
yeah, no, and the thing is that the points are not given for good sugars. The points are
Yeah.
given for basically discipline, for monitoring, because
Mhm.
that's the only way we can get these kids into that kind of a pattern. Right? Here again, we're talking about kids who come from below poverty line.
Yeah.
These are kids who basically do not have they're not able to afford insulin, they're sometimes not able to afford meals. So and just think about it, like their doctors have just shunned them away. They were like, they see, they don't care if they live or die, right? The fact that they've come to us is because they
Wow.
genuinely there is no other place to go. So the idea is that the amount of care that the team shows to these kids, it's phenomenal. And we have been, so they come every month to our center to come and collect their insulin, right? We pay
Mhm.
for their transport and the food that they get because they've missed 1 day's worth of daily wages, right? So all that has to be kept in mind. It's a very complex and structured system. There's a lot of SOPs and protocols that go behind it.
Yeah.
But the reward that we see is that, like recently, one of our Mishti kids' A1C dropped by 1%. And she's been doing really good. She's been tracking, she's been showing us her logbook every time she comes. And every kid, right, they have so many struggles. We were like, how can we just remove a little bit of struggle from their already, a life filled with so many hardships that they've done nothing to deserve?
Mhm.
So that's one of the very, very impactful and important projects at Diabesties, which has so much of a feedback loop, as Carol mentioned.
Yeah. And I think even the quality of the insulin, if we
Yes.
are able to access slightly more pricier insulin, because when you're getting it through a governmental funded social service system, it's different. But when you're actually paying for every vial or every pen,
Mm.
you need to be able to literally pay for the next vial and pen as well. So I've sort of started this thing with one of our donors back in Saudi, and he won't give me money, but he'll give me the actual insulin, which is fine. I can get it to Ahmedabad, I can get it to the Mishti Center, and we have identified a
Yeah.
couple of boys who have unreasonable resistance. Now, I'm not going to blame them. It is whatever it is. They can't afford a GLP-1 to get rid of. I can do it. They can't. They cannot erase that resistance, but I could get them slightly better insulin. So we went in for a basal insulin that was Toujeo, and it's not easily affordable. That would not be possible without the Mishti project going on in the background. Um, it needs to be sustainable. It needs to be like when somebody is out of the picture, then that project still continues, which is, I think that's one of the challenges. I don't have to deal with it, Jazz does. So definitely, definitely, that
The
is a
worst
hard
part
part.
of my job is fundraising, but it's also the most important bit of it.
Thank you so much, guys. I hope that gives a bit of an insight to the community listening in. Let's talk about Decoded then. Can you tell us a little bit about what is Decoded, how it all began, and what's the sort of team behind Decoded, and maybe like the processes of what needs to be done to decode that sort of paper, the research paper?
Yeah, I'll just give you a little insight of how it began, and then I'll hand it over to Astra because she's genuinely the sort of head of Decoded, and she's the one who looks over
Yeah.
all the decoding and stuff. But just the idea was born very simply after the Vertex trial launched, and there was like headlines all over. And I had like about I don't know, anywhere between 50 to 100 DMs asking me, because it was a very clickbaity headline.
Yeah.
In India, it came out as, oh my God, cure for type 1 diabetes, something like that, right?
Yeah.
Where it was very, very preliminary in stages. And everyone sort of started DMing me saying that, okay, what does this mean? And I don't understand this. And I am sure a lot of people went and clicked on it, but all that was available was the abstract, and the abstract was also very scientific in nature. So a lot of people, including myself, who don't have a scientific or medical background as such, I've always struggled to understand scientific literature. I'm better now. Because I'm in this line of work. But I think for a common person who lives with type 1 diabetes, a common person who does not have a scientific background, who does not have maybe too much of a literacy, it's very difficult for them to be able to understand research, that too medical research.
Mm-hmm.
And as people living with conditions, we are constantly on the search for things that can help us. And unfortunately, all those things that can help us are all either like locked behind paywalls of research journals, or they are in a language we don't understand.
Yeah.
For younger kids also, and for teenagers, right? I've always found, like, for example, I myself am a very visual learner. I understand better with color and with formatting and things like that. So having like a long 300 worded, very small, tiny font visually is not appealing to me at all.
No.
So we that is where the idea was born out of, that how do we make diabetes research accessible to people who are actually living with diabetes, in an effort not only for them to be more aware and to know what's out there, but to also then use that research to advocate for better care.
Yeah.
So, how can I go and ask my healthcare professional for a CGM in the hypothesis that I want to have a baby, if I don't know that CGMs are actually very, very important if you want to get pregnant? So the idea was again to get this amazing research that is being done by the scientific community, decode it, make it super simple for people to understand, and then hand it into the community. And that's how the idea started. I reached out a couple of folks like Partha, like Marta Koch, who is the editor in chief of the Lancet. And we sort of rallied together and said that we need a multi stakeholder partnership for this, because I was very, very clear that I don't want this just to be summaries. It has to still have the scientific integrity, which
Mm-hmm.
is why every single one of our decoded articles is later verified by an actual researcher or academic, which sort of gives the credibility back to the piece, that you're not reading just somebody's summary of an
Yeah.
article,
Yeah.
but you're actually reading a verified piece of research that has been abridged and made with analogies and made with different kind of visuals and designs, so that the community can understand it.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right, so that's the bit of how it's done, and then Asra, I think can shed light on the processes, how we do it, and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, on the surface, I think when you actually open the Decoded website, it looks nice. The colors are there and the pictures are there, but everything is very planned. Everything is very sort of organized, and there is a reason behind the title. And we had a feedback loop done when we initially launched after the first, I think, 3 months. And the feedback we got was, oh, the titles are so boring. And I think Mary was there in that in the
User group.
I'm
Thing.
losing exactly
Yeah.
the word. I'm losing the word, but anyway, Mary's input was
Focus
the
group.
title.
Focus group. Yeah.
Yes, our focus
Focus group,
group,
yes.
and everybody was like the title. So I said, okay, now what do? I can't rewrite a title, so let's figure it out. So we did. We have gone through a few changes, and getting the right research means we have to be careful about, there's a little bit of background that, is there any financial gain for anybody or not? Is there companies behind this research? If there are financing the research, then I'm, as usual, going to take it with a pinch of salt. So these little sort of background, we do check that out. And then things that are going to make a difference, like the ADAPSA study, like the DCCT study. Now, when I talk about something, even in my own education, back to basic sessions or the workshop, I said, well, why don't you go have a look at that study? And now I have a place to send the people where they can understand simple language. I
Mhm.
remember the first one was the DCT study, which Jazz sent my way, and I'm like, what? I can't understand this. What is this?
Yeah.
And I remember holding on to it for over 2 weeks, and Jazz said, is there any feedback? And I said, is she mad? She really thinks I'm going to read this. She really thinks I'm going to go through that. And I said, yep,
True.
I'll have a look. And that was the first one. And since then, I have had my own ways of making it a lot speedier. Thank you very much, Jazz. The last one I looked at was 72 pages, and I was like, "Ooh, that's not going to be possible. I'm in a flight, and I'm not going to be reading 72 pages of this in the entire plane." So we figured it out.
Yeah.
We have a team. Initially, we started with a few PhD students. We had 4 PhD students. So they had the background to understand the language. And then we figured out how to simplify. We have a great, fantastic design team. And Malvina at Diabesties works full time behind me with when it comes to decoded, because I only do the black and white stuff. She comes up with these
Designs and
gorgeous pictures that make sense, that make whatever those words said very accessible.
meaningful for the
So
for the audience, the
exactly.
community.
So and then I have somebody who actually does all the uploading, and he'll come back and say, sorry, that's a huge workout. Can you reduce that? And I'm like, no. So, it's not just one person. There's a lot of people who go behind that. And we normally have a sort of stepping articles will come to me. I'll go through it. If I need any changes, I'll ask the author to go back, and they'll kind of do something. And then it goes to Jazz. She can go through it, and then it goes to the design team. And once everything is done, we send it for approvals and uploading. So it is time consuming. It takes about 3 weeks to get through the entire process. My biggest struggle is Decoded is a free website, which means everybody working there is a volunteer. They're not getting paid extras or additional, or especially the decoders, our students, our PhD students, they're not getting paid. They're doing it because they genuinely care. And that is
And also
unfortunately a little bit harder.
most of the people who actually are decoders are also people who live with type 1 diabetes, so they're also very cognizant about language. We don't want to have language that is stigmatizing, or any of that sort, because again, we are one of the co-creators of Language Matters as well. So that's also very much taken care of in the way that they decode it. And I think the templatization, what we've done is making it very easy for people to sort of join the team if they do want to decode. So like we have a like a Eli 5 section that explain it like I'm 5. We have a summary snapshot section. We have like a word wizard. So the template is set. So you just need to be somebody who's able to understand medical research, and then simplify it for an audience who really does not understand medical research at all. And then, as Asra said, the entire process goes that way, and it's multiple renditions, and then the final thing is up. And then we've actually gotten multiple sort of calls to like translate the website. So I think the big next step for this year is to make it multilingual, so that more people can also understand it and the access can be reached more of. But I think just having the scientific community as a backing is that, they've been able to open up a lot of paywalls for us as well. Because I've always said this, and I say this at every conference I presented, that we're actually opening up a whole new audience for those original authors. See, those authors are always going to write for other scientists. That's not going to stop.
No.
But here you've actually opened up your research to a whole group of target audience that would have never read your research in the first place. So it's just widening the pool of people who can actually understand research, which I think is never a bad thing.
Absolutely. So how many research papers have you already decoded, and are you in the process of continuing this year with more to come? And what's the sort of coverage that you guys have got so far? And is it papers from all over the world that you get? So there might be scientific papers that are based in the UK or India. Like, is it everywhere that can come through the doors?
It is a worldwide website, 100%. So it is from everywhere. In fact, the one we published on fasting was done at Riyadh, which was in Saudi Arabia. That entire research was done in Riyadh in conjunction with IDF, and their results. I got a feedback in Lisbon And this German doctor came up to me and he said, he asked me, I said, "Are you Asra?" And I was like, "Yes." And I had no clue who he was. And he said, "I had a patient who came to me and I said, I want to fast during Ramadan. And I saw this
Yeah.
paper. Could you prescribe me a 780G?" And that research was specifically done using a 780G pump, but it could work with any AID system.
Mhm.
So that I was like, wow. I was totally gobsmacked. I thought, wow, somebody sits and does this somewhere. Otherwise, that Dr. Sufyani's paper would never have gone to this T1D in Germany who could access that information and take it to his doctor. And wow, I'm so happy for him that it could be done.
Yeah.
That is what we were looking for, and
Yes.
I'm kind of hoping that's we can continue with that.
Mhm.
Um,
Yes.
yeah,
So we try to do about one or two papers every month, and we've done about, I don't know, I want to say, I've lost
19,
count, maybe 19 or
19,
20
yeah,
decodes
yeah.
already on the site. And the hope is that at least every month, one or two do go out.
Mhm.
And yeah, we keep building it up. And what
Yeah.
Asra just said, like, that's exactly what should be happening, right? And I know of one of the ladies who when we published the concept trial, which basically said that CGM is important for pregnancy, she went and asked for a CGM because she read our
She read the
study, and she
paper.
said that
Yeah.
the outcomes improve so much more if you have a CGM on when you're trying for pregnancy. I mean, when you're pregnant with a type 1 diabetes. So she actually went and advocated to her doctor and said that, no, I've read this research and I know I want it. And again,
Wow.
you wouldn't be able to do that if you don't have access to that research.
No.
So I think when we talk so much about access, we're talking not only to access to medication, but also access to medical literacy and medical research.
Medical
And I think
knowledge, isn't
Decode is
it?
just a gateway. Yep,
Yeah.
yep, it's a gateway into that.
Absolutely. That's so empowering hearing that that person went away and they read it and then they went to their healthcare team and spoke about it, like advocated for it. That's
Yep.
sensational. We've had a question that come through. Are there any papers available for people with other types of diabetes, for example, type 2 LADA? Or is the plans to do that? Is it currently just for type 1 or is it for all types? Or
Yep.
what's your thoughts there?
Yeah, currently it is going to be strictly with type 1, and type 2 is coming into diabetes. That's a future that I'll just kind of whisper about. We
Brilliant.
are heading that way. We have a whole separate section coming up for that.
Yeah.
But
Yes,
currently we are sticking to type 1, and it's a confusing space if we clutter a lot of research. So right now, I thought let's just do one thing properly, and
Yes.
yeah.
yeah, yeah. And
Focus
then we
focus on
will
one thing. Yeah. Yeah.
focusing. Yeah, right now we are focused.
Brilliant. No,
Yes.
that's
But I
good.
feel when we are, there's a few articles in there, the last couple especially, and the standard of care that's going to come up in January is it's basic standard of care. Standard of care doesn't matter which type of diabetes you have.
Absolutely.
That should be, and when we are talking about complications, I've actually avoided using type 1 diabetes. I've stuck to using just general diabetes
Exactly.
description because once we cross that line,
Yeah. It's
it
hard to come
doesn't
back.
matter.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And you've already highlighted the importance of language matters. Obviously, you guys are part. You got this going, but you know, in your papers, it's reinforcing that language, isn't it? For everyone
absolutely.
who's reading them. I hope that helps the person that asked that question. How can members? Another question: how can members of the community become involved in the work that Decoded do? Who do they speak to, and how do you find out more about Decoded? Where can they go?
So, I mean, you can go to the website. It's decodeddiabetes.com. Everything is on there. There's also a contact button right at the bottom. So, if you are somebody who is interested in sort of volunteering your time to come and decode articles, then you will be working with Asra over here. And basically, but no, I mean, everyone is welcome. The more, the merrier. Just like I said, I think the only requirement to be a decoder is that you should have some background in being able to understand research. So I personally do not decode articles myself because I just am not qualified enough to do it. But if you are a person who is into design, who wants to contribute, just let us know. So everything is on the website. It's decodeddiabetes.com. And yeah, come and become
Yeah,
a decoder with us.
my very sincere request would be if you could volunteer one decoded article a year. And I know everybody here is a reader. I can see some of my own friends out here. So
Yeah.
please, we would love, 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 love to have that.
Absolutely.
And it's going to be left when we are no longer here. That's what I keep saying, and I
Yeah.
said that to my own family. They're like, you spend hours doing this, I said, listen, when I'm gone, this is going to be there, so
Yeah.
shush, let
Yep,
me get on
we're
with
And
leaving
it.
behind a legacy,
you
guys.
are
Come join the legacy.
you both are. You all are. And can I ask, is there a way to measure the impact of Decoded? I'm sure you guys are looking at that or have. Like, is there a way to measure the
So
impact
I
it
mean, we
has?
we do look at things like website traffic and stuff like that. But I think what is more impactful are these stories that we get, right? Like when
Mm,
Asra met this doctor who said that I got a patient who came in, and who told me, or when we have these kind of women coming to us and saying it. So I think it's just like, and you can't really calculate the inbound stories that we do get.
yeah.
But I do know that it's reaching the right people, and I think they will do what they must with it. But at least they've got the knowledge.
Yeah.
And I think that's one step that wasn't there a couple of years ago. So I'm
Yeah.
sure that it will sort of, eventually cascade down into much more better change. So as Astra said, there are big plans for Decoded. So we've just been getting started. So it's going to go places.
Amazing, amazing. Was there anything else you guys wanted to add on to that? There was all my questions Decoded, but was there anything I've missed or you want to highlight, or do you think that kind of gives a good flavor of the amazing things that you guys are doing for Decoded?
Yeah, I think we've pretty much covered everything. Just, I think, go ahead and look at the website, and we would love your feedback as well. So if you have any feedback or any thoughts that you think can help, then just reach out. There's contact information right at the bottom over there. So yeah, just go ahead and hop onto the decoded bit.
Brilliant. Okay, just to finish our chat tonight, I just thought for the next sort of 5 minutes or so, if it's okay, is to talk about misconceptions about diabetes and stigma. And I just wanted to ask from whether it's your personal thoughts on this or through the sessions that you guys are doing at Diabetes Foundation through the education or events or community engagement. Like, of all the myths and misconceptions that you hear about diabetes, is there any top myths or misconceptions that annoy you the most? And what are your thoughts on stigma attached to diabetes? Like, how does this make you feel, or the foundation feel? Like, what can be done to change perspectives? I know there's a lot of questions in there.
See, the thing is with India, especially, stigma is a very, very deep rooted societal, cultural fabric that we have in our society, right? So we come from the land of Ayurveda, we come from the land of alternative medicine. We come from a land that is very, very severely patriarchal
Yeah.
in the deep rooted rural society. So there's already stigma prevalent, even when you're not talking about health. And then when you add in health to the mix, it just becomes a boiling pot of stigma.
Mm.
And I think over the years, one thing I have realized personally, as in my role of diabetes, is that I think stigma comes when you don't know enough, or you know enough of the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And that actually I've seen it perpetuate. So the themes are very, very common, where we'll have, oh, we've heard that insulin has side effects, or we've heard that you can get addicted to insulin. That's why we want to stop our child from having insulin. We don't want to give them injectables. How will these guys get married? Type 1 diabetes. My favorite is type 1 diabetes is contagious. All the children will have type 1 diabetes. So these are the common ones we hear almost every day.
Mm.
The other kinds of stigmas that we do get is, of course, when it comes to marriage, and especially when it's a girl child. So when it's a girl who wants to get married already because the family think that, oh my god, she's flawed, or she's this has actually been, I'm quoting somebody who said it was in Hindi, but he said she's broken, so we can't get a broken piece into our house. you know. It goes to very, very disturbing lens of what society, because I think in India a very, very big part of our culture is about society. We are a very communal, community driven culture. So it's always, it's not just you as a person, you always have people around you.
Mhm.
So what people say and what people think of you is such an important part in Indian culture. So we've had parents who've actually killed their own children because they've got type 1 diabetes. And that's why I keep saying that stigma looks very different in different parts of the world. And we
Mhm.
cannot generalize stigma as an intangible, because in many parts of the world, like my own country, stigma can lead to tangible and fatal consequences.
Absolutely.
So I think a very big project that we're going to launch in actually end of this month is to do with stigma,
Mhm.
because we need more sensitization, we need more awareness, we need more differentiation of types, we need more representation, because that's the only way that this look of stigma will start to fade.
Yeah, 100%. Look forward to seeing your next sort of project, because it's such an important topic, isn't it? And it
Yeah.
happens, in work, in school. It happens everywhere, through friendships, through family members. It happens in everyday life, and it's unnecessary. And do you think it comes down to awareness and education? And if people were informed the correct information, that will hopefully reduce the unnecessary stigma. Like, people need to know the real of diabetes, and not be hearing silly myths and misconceptions, right?
Yeah, exactly. It all boils down to that. It has to start at just basic awareness. And I think health literacy is something that we don't take seriously enough. So, just basic health literacy is where it begins. And of course, I think a lot of reconditioning of societal norms and structures also
Mm.
need to happen, which is a much more, I think, with the newer generations coming up, I see a little bit of that changing.
Yeah,
But until now, it was just so much of that generational traumas and generational taboos that have been passed down. So the reconditioning actually begins now.
Azra, anything to add on to that?
Yeah, I agree with you. We've been through it. I see it on the Arabic side, the North Africa side. I'm dealing with a lot of people from Libya, Iraq, Lebanon, and it doesn't matter where you're from.
Mm.
Every single country has the same stigma, it's just a different word for it. And females, unfortunately, go through the taboo a lot more. The acceptance is a little bit harder. And it has to start. Somebody has to stop and recalibrate the entire way of thinking. Uh, we today we were out and I changed my pod in the middle of a store. Just sat down and I did it.
Mm.
And while I was doing, I could feel people looking.
Yeah.
I put it on my arm, so there was no tummy showing. There was nothing that would offend anybody, but I could feel it, and I thought, if I went into a room to do this, how am I going to stop the flow? And I'm in a country right now where these taboos are large and huge. I know they are. So I said, okay, I'm doing it, and we'll see if there's a comment. I know I'm going to be very politely answering it, and that's what we have to keep doing again and again.
Absolutely.
Yes, I agree with that. Excuse me. I was going to say this is slightly on topic and slightly off topic, but I have actually spoken to my diabetes team to ask them to be heard, to ask them to think about if I was following the religion that would lead me to be celebrating Ramadan, I would not be eating 6 meals a day, which is what they wanted me to do. And when I say 6 meals, I mean 3 main meals and 3 snacks. I can't tolerate that. I'm older now, and my body weight is too much. So anything that I try to do to diet is not working anymore. I won't go into hormones. We won't mention them because that's just a bottomless pit. But what I said was at the time, if I was observing Ramadan, I would not be eating all day. Therefore, I haven't taken any insulin, but I will take insulin when I have a meal in the evening. And I wasn't responded to in a negative way, but they did stop and listen then. And then when I said later on, a few months later, a nurse rang me up and said, "So you've decided to stop taking your insulin now, have you?" And I said, "No, I take my insulin when I need it." But I spoke to the diabetes nurse, and he very kindly on the pump team said to me, "I need to moderate my language. I need to say, I have delayed my insulin, not I have stopped my insulin," because I probably did say I've stopped taking insulin. I stopped taking insulin for lunch because I didn't eat any lunch. Therefore, I didn't need any insulin. So I have to be more clear when I'm speaking to the team. That was my first lesson of the day. And my second lesson of the day was when they asked me whether I had decided that I was going on a starvation diet. And I said, well, yes, kind of, because I'm trying to lose weight and nothing I do is helping me to lose weight. So I don't know what else to do at the moment. And then I got very, very weak, and that's me all over again. I have very, very weak times, and then I have very, very strong times. So it's interesting, but it's just, it has to be gone through, I suppose. And people have to think about how they're hearing as well as how they're listening. That's my observation for the night. Thank you
No,
for
thank you.
listening.
Thank you for sharing. And I think, so much of what you said is exactly what we try to talk about in whatever way, whenever we talk about language matters. It's not just about the words we use, it's also so much about the intentionality behind it. And I think you need teams that can support you in your journey. Like we keep saying that diabetes is not one size fits all. And I don't mean that when I only talk about person's size and weight and insulin requirement. It's also about a person's culture. It's about a person's genetics. It's about a person's geography. It's about a person's demographic. It's about their income. You know, it's about their socioeconomic status. So, one size
Yes,
fits all of
yes.
diabetes, we have to expand and go beyond just the physical and also look at all these other things. So, thank you for sharing your story. And I deeply believe that we have to do better as a healthcare fraternity when we talk about inclusivity and about the one size fits all notion.
Yeah, thank you, Carol. That was amazing. And yes, the responsibility is ours. Sometimes, as T1D advocates, we go head on barging into some things, and it's really important to stop and kind of rephrase our own language, just so that we are heard correctly. The intentionality is very, very important. And thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
What a wonderful night it's been tonight. Thank you so much, Jazz and Azra, for not only stopping by, you stopped by at like 2, 3 a.m. Where you guys are. You're so mad. But we absolutely love you guys. But honestly, it's been so empowering tonight. We've learned so much. We talked about so many important things, education, mental health, peer support, stigma, advocacy, so much. We talked about Decoded and Diabesties and everything else in between. But honestly, thank you so much for your time. And please, guys, go check out Decoded, decodeddiabetes.com, and also Diabesties, diabesties.foundation. And you can learn more about both. And we look forward to just keeping an eye on all the fantastic things you guys do. And Azra, I had the great honor of meeting you in ISPAD, and we had a lovely evening out with some DDoC voices, and it was lovely to chat them. But thank you both for coming on tonight, and yeah, thanks again.
Thank you for having us. It was absolutely a pleasure speaking with everyone, and I can't wait to see you guys soon, somewhere in the world. And all of you are absolutely invited to India anytime. Let us know. And I'm gonna go to bed, guys, because it's so late. But I will
Please,
see you guys very, very
please
soon.
do. Cheers, Jazz.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Jazz.
Thank
Good
Azra.
night.
Thank you,
Night.
guys.